Guys, very important thing. I'm gonna give a spoiler real quick. Our 8 weeks course, we teach 4 movements.
You cannot have great connection if the timing is not there. You cannot have great balance if the timing is not there.
Guys, we just put pens in between people's legs to walk with the legs closed. When I took the pen out and I did the basic was different already.
If you ever see me in a class, I may look very upset and angry, but I'm not. I'm just paying attention and taking note of everything.
You don't need to teach everything in terms of patterns and movements. You really don't. Encouragement is also a powerful, powerful, powerful tool. And remember, we are dealing with people who are insecure, who are developing their trust in themselves.
What are the most important things to learn when you're a beginner? Should we spend most of our focus on moves, technique, or connection? Well, let's find out. Hello everyone, and welcome back to ZoukNerds. In this episode, we want to share everything we know about the sometimes stressful beginners level. And since we've been helping teachers and students for over 2 decades, we believe that this episode is going to be perfect for you. So, let's go! Hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode. My name is Alisson Sandi, and once again, I'm joined by our beautiful co-host, Gui Prada. Hello, Gui.
Hello, Alisson. Hello, everybody, and welcome back.
Welcome back, everybody, and we're excited to have you here one more time. And today we're going to be talking about another very requested episode, which is to talk about what to do when we're teaching beginner students, or what should we aim for them to learn? What are the fundamentals, the foundations, the basics that we think are the most important for a beginner dancer, for somebody who is starting to dance Brazilian Zouk or starting to dance in any dance style? Yes, we're here to talk about Brazilian Zouk or Brazilian dances, but we do believe that this framework can pretty much apply to any dance style that you may teach or learn. So let's start with this, Gui. What are the foundational things or concepts and techniques that you prioritize when you teach, or that you evaluate when you're dancing with the students to know what level they're at, if they are at your school's level 1 or 2 or 3, or however the school structures their learning?
Nice question. And I'm very excited about this episode because I think it's going to be a fun guide for people to come back to or listen to from time to time to get some inspiration, as we are also constantly learning about this topic, about this subject.
Oh, yes.
Never ending. The technical aspect of it, I would say, starts with timing. I think like getting people to step to the rhythm might be the most challenging thing. And the second one, the rock steps, the tachik, the chick. But that is the thing that takes so much time. Oh my God. I have a Basics 1 course, which is our beginner class here in Washington, D.C. with District Zouk. And we are in week 7. And only now, 7 weeks later, we have 8 weeks total. Some students, you could see that their bodies finally downloaded the rhythm. So they're stepping to the boom, tachik, boom. And then comes the pivoting, the lateral footwork. I think might be the third thing. And the last thing would be understanding the basic positioning when they are doing back and forward basic in front of each other, when they're doing side to side pattern like a viradinha, and our perpendicular positioning in lateral. So that positioning aspect of it is the hardest one in the end, because for the leaders is where they start learning the transitions, and that's so difficult for people at first. We also working with the leader walking around the followers track to get, a little bit more floor craft going, a little bit more footwork going. Also working on the timing. working on the followers' awareness of their line and which line they are staying on. Balance, not rely on your partner for your balance. So all these things are included when you work on these things.
Sounds like a 12-month course already.
Yes, yes. Guys, very important thing. I'm going to give a spoiler real quick. Our 8 weeks course, we teach 4 movements. Yes. So
Yes.
we teach 4 of our basic patterns. Yes, linear basic, viradinha, lateral, and walk around. The walk around is this thing that the follower says lateral, leader walk around. We also do, of course, side basic and a simple turn coming from the linear basic, which is another lateral kind of thing. So that's all we do. Yes, and we spend the whole time just repeating, transitioning from one thing to the other. So, timing, rock steps, lateral footwork, and positioning. These are the things. And working on some undulations in the warm-ups. That's all. What about you, Alisson? What are the other?
Well, I think it's pretty much the same. We are very similar in the ways that we teach. But yes, timing, absolutely first, foremost. I am a timing commander for the happiness and the sadness of a lot of students, but I am, because I do believe that timing absolutely affects everything in dance. You cannot have great connection if the timing is not there. You cannot have great balance if the timing is not there. But I'm going to breathe and continue answering the question. So to add to what you said already, something else that I really like to focus on is body awareness. And I'm not talking about crazy deep level body awareness. I'm just talking about understanding what your body is doing. Where is your leg going? Where are your shoulders? Where is your neck? Where are your hips? Where are your knees? What are they doing? Are you aware that they're bending, that they're not bending, that your hips are locked or your shoulders are up to your ears? That to me is a huge thing. So in addition to everything that you said, I want to make sure that the students are feeling, and I'm going to say this again, I want to make sure that the students are feeling those things. Not that they look at me and they copy, or that they stand in front of the mirror and they manage to do it in front of the mirror, but then when they're dancing, they're not doing it because they're locked into this shape and form that they see. I want them to feel what it is to, once again, step in timing, to rock step and allow your joints to move, or to stand nice and tall, but with space between your shoulders and the ears. All of those things, the body awareness of the student. And then, of course, once we start going into connecting to your partner, that body awareness is crucial, because how many times the leader thinks that they're doing something, but then they're not, because like they're turning their chest, but their arms are like not moving. So they're like, I'm leading with my chest, but hang on. Your chest, your arms, your hips, everything needs to go together. And the same thing for the followers. They may be connected through their hands or their arms, but then the upper body is not moving with their frame. So a basic understand of all of those things. And in addition to all of those things, I hope you guys are keeping notes and writing everything down. What I want them to know is not the technique, but to understand what's happening in their body. So I don't necessarily talk about frame. I don't necessarily talk about rock step. I talk about the action of rocking your weight. I don't talk about this is your frame. I say this is how you feel each other's shoulders and back and hands, and this is how you feel each other's weight transfer. Or I don't talk about posture per se, but I talk about standing nice and tall. And I'm getting into this topic because I think that, especially all of us here, ZoukNerds and dance nerds, we are such nerds that we take 100 private lessons in lateral, 200 private lessons in weight transfer. And then when we go to teach, for example, or even when we go to learn, we're so attached to the names and the definition of those technical terms that we forget to connect to how things feel. Instead of like teaching grounding, projection, rocking, swiveling, sliding, all of those things, they are very, very foreign terminology for somebody who is starting to dance. So instead of talking about grounding, I talk about relaxing their knees and bringing their hips a little bit heavier onto the floor and feeling the weight all over their foot. Instead of talking about projection, I talk about, look, put your leg forwards, extended. Extend your leg forwards. That's it. Because how many times as we are training our own assistants and our own team members, or when we teach private lessons out there, we ask them, hey, can you explain to me how you describe a basic step for somebody who is learning Zouk for the first time? And dear God, I feel like it's a science class.
Yeah, sometimes it looks like a technician class.
Exactly. It goes to like engineering and biomechanics and muscle groups and all of those things that, oh my God, it just overwhelms the students at that point. You can overwhelm yourself at that point if you are thinking about all of those things. So this for me is the mentality of learning a new dance style myself, or learning a new move, a new technique, or teaching any of the above. I want to focus on the body experience, on the muscle memory that I can build, and how through my body I can recognize what I'm meant to do versus what I'm not meant to do. And then along the way, we get more feedback, or we give more feedback about things like, okay, do you remember when you did this and it felt this way and your partner did that? That's what we're looking for. So look for that feeling again, instead of just going like, okay, do it again, but fix your frame. For a beginner student, what does that mean? Fix your frame.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's very, very deep and very hard for us to expect something like that. If we could end the episode here, at least for me, that would be it. For most teachers out there. But no, we have a lot more.
Much. This reminds me of my lawyer days, that we have the legalese. We have this language of those who understood law, or who understand law, who study law. We speak very particular terms. And one of the things that we learned in law school is when you communicate to people about things of the law, drop the legalese. You need to speak in a way that someone can understand what you're saying. And I think with dancers who are really, immersed in the dance world and in the dance terminology, it can be really easy to forget that student that is coming for the first time doesn't know any of these terms. And that is something that we need to remind ourselves, because I forget at times. A whole group of completely new people, and I say lateral, they have no idea what that means. Like frame, absolutely no idea what that means. So we need to find a way to translate the names we are so used to into like, what is the thing in the body that we want them to feel, like you were saying, Alisson. So it's translating the names into feeling, or into a more straightforward description of what the movement entails. So lateral, step forward, step side, pivot, or turn 180 degrees. We give a lot of references in the room, because our room has a curtain on one side, has a window on the other side, has a stage on the other side, has a mirror on the other side. So we have curtain, mirror, stage, window. And it's magic when you say, now when you finish, you look at the curtains, and then you see people, curtains right there. So using as many reference points as possible also helps. Because I think, Alisson, is the term proprioception when you need to understand your own body, right? I think it's proprioception. That's by far, or it might be the most important thing we are working on. is people's body awareness. We do sometimes I was going to use the word simple, but it's not simple. It's simple for me now. Arm body coordination drills, like walking forward and back, sending one arm back and one arm forward as we walk to work on torsion, or walking as the arms go around, up and around, doing like all these exercises, making sure that the person stretches the leg before taking a step backwards. And in class, really making sure that everybody is going together, especially if you have a small class. You can absolutely do that. You can wait everybody to have their legs straight, and then you shift weight, and like working a lot with contrast. You can ask everybody to raise the shoulder, everybody to lower the shoulder, and lock to the feeling of it. You mentioned the posture now, Alisson, of standing nice and tall. There was something that we did here last week or 2 weeks ago that was really fun and incredibly effective. I'm going to do this every single time now. I said, we're going to play a posture game. How it is the posture of somebody who's cold. How is the posture of somebody who's very hot. And then from there, we went to like a posture of someone who is confident. And then everybody did the posture we want. When you say the word confident, we understand. People understand what that means and how that translates into their body. And then I said, now you are stuck up. You're like more than confident. You are arrogant. And then everybody did the same thing. They raised their noses like this. You know, so humans have these associations of a word or a behavior with how the body reacts. And it's really effective when you tap into that. So when talking to students in the beginning of the journey, trying to translate the dance in this way has been effective for us here. And highly recommend that you look for these correlations of movement to a word or to something that people can correlate with, resonate with, as you teach them the terminology. Like Alisson was saying, the frame. We translate the frame first, and then at some point we say, so guys, when you go around to the dance world, you might hear this being referred to as the frame. And we even like make a joke of saying like the frame as this big thing, you know, which it is for several people. But that's the idea, I think, when it comes to body, when it comes to technique, when it comes to movement. There is a second part of it, which is the dance environment. And that was super cool, actually. That happened this Monday. This guy came in for the first time ever. He said, look, this is my first time. Really like this dance, but I'm a little nervous. Can I ask you some questions? And then he basically asked all the questions that we have to remind ourselves to tell the students in our basics courses. He said, okay, how do I move around here? What is the etiquette? He asked. Is it one dance, two dances, three dances? And then I explained to him everything, blah, blah. And then he said, okay, I'm noticing that the songs are blending together and I have a hard time hearing. How should I do? Where should I go? How should I know? And I was like, God damn it. Yeah, it's a very good question as well. And then he asked the same thing. Oh, these people that are sitting, does it mean that they want to dance? Or does it mean that they are resting? He said, how do I know who is sitting wants to dance or rest? I was like, God damn it, I don't. So he was asking all these amazing questions. And then I told him like, look, generally when somebody's sitting, they're open to dance. However, if somebody's standing up, he stood up and is looking, it's more likely that that person really wants to dance. So you can go for those who are standing up if there are free chairs. And he asked one more question. He said, is it okay if I tell people that that's my first day? And I said, bro, like by all means, yes, tell them everything. He asked you, how do I know they're comfortable? So the guy basically laid out everything we basically need to write in a manual called Welcome to the Brazilian Zouk World. Here's some important information, you know, which we did write. It's being proofread right now. But it was really cool that this guy came in this Monday and asked all these questions. So reminder for us to also in our beginner courses, lay out all of these things that is so common to us, but they are students, they really have no idea. Alisson, can I tell just one more story before I give it to you?
Let's go.
One of our Basics 3 students, last month, he came for the social for the first time. Basics 3 is 5 or 6 months into learning Brazilian Zouk, following our curriculum. So 5, 6 months in, he goes for his first social. Basics 3. And then he's in class and I said, oh guys, I noticed some of you went to the social. Tell me how it was. And then he came and he raised his hand and he was like, oh, I noticed people dance a lot of songs together. Should I do the same? 5 months in, and there was still a question. So guys, even if your student has been around for, 6 months, 7 months, these things might come back. Reminders, constant reminders to not be scared of being repetitive. This is something that our team here struggles with. They don't want to be repetitive. But I think it's important to be repetitive in these topics. People forget or they haven't experienced yet the social or the festival or the weekender. So it's really nice to bring this aspect together with all the technical stuff we have been talking about.
Yeah, we have to think about all of the things that are part of being a community member. And that's something that we learned a lot about, strangely enough, during the pandemic, because we had so many courses that were like sit-down courses. We had Q&As, we had live sessions talking to the students, and a lot of all of these questions were coming up. And then after the pandemic, the first time we started teaching in person, we thought, okay, those questions, we're actually going to have classes in our curriculum about those topics. So we started adding, like this week, we're going to talk about how to invite people to dance, how to say no, what to expect in a social, what to do when the floor is too busy, things like that. Or talking about safety, just a whole class about safety, what to do when somebody does this to you, what to do or what to say, how to protect yourself physically or even emotionally, what to expect, what is normal versus what's not normal. Because like that, 6 months into Zouk, 1 year into Zouk, and then somebody's teaching somebody else on the dance floor, and then the student is all confused. Like, is this normal?
Yeah. Yes.
There are so many things that when it comes to technique, we don't forget to tell people about safety, about protecting their back, protecting their knee, make sure that you do this and you wear your dance shoes. And when it comes to technique, we describe all of the things. But when it comes to social interactions, which are things that for us, especially us who've been in this for like 20 years, we forget. We really forget that people are not part of this bubble that very honestly does not behave like many other bubbles or communities around the world. Even in the dance community, Brazilian Zouk community itself or Brazilian dancing itself is very different from other styles of dance. You come from tango, you come from ballroom, you come from another style. It's different. So we need to remember. And as a tip, I think what we can start doing is to actually write down all of those questions.
Yeah.
Don't treat them as, again, like how to invite somebody to dance. Well, if you hear that so many times, or if one person asks, that means 10 other people are thinking about it and not asking the question. So yes, having a student manual for beginners, for example, that would be great. Create a little document where you can write all of the things. How many times people don't hear about what to wear until much later? And I'm talking more about shoes, but you can give recommendations. If a student comes to me and say, hey, Alisson, I notice everybody kind of has the same shoes. Everybody wears Tigers or the other white one. I forgot the name.
Fuego.
Fuego. And the students are like, should I buy those shoes? And I'm like, no. I mean, like, it's something that you can invest on, but just wear something that you feel comfortable with, that you can walk or dance for a long time, and that doesn't stick too much to the ground to make sure that you protect your joints. That's it. That could be part of the manual. Or like, what kind of clothes should I wear? Well, wear clothes that makes you feel comfortable, wear clothes that are non-restrictive, possibly some light fabric or some stretchy fabric, and hygiene, basic hygiene things. Like, make sure that when you're coming to a dance class, bring a fresh change of clothes. Pay a visit to the bathroom and freshen up, because we're going to get quite close to people. So it would be nice if we don't smell your dinner, or so many things that I think could be just part of that basic manual. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about these things in class as well.
Yes.
Oh, but I'm uncomfortable. Well, do you want to be the uncomfortable person saying it? Or do you prefer to have your students going through an uncomfortable situation because they experience it? I prefer to be uncomfortable saying it than to learn one day that a student was uncomfortable for months, or maybe for 5 minutes, just because I did not tell them about something, such as shoes, hygiene, clothes, or maybe how to dance with somebody that they never met before, how to ask for that dance. So I think we need to think about all of those things as like, I am here to help somebody who is new, and I would appreciate that help from somebody who was there before me if I was the new person. And I think we all have had that experience, and we have people in our head that we can think back and go like, this person helped me with this, that person helped me with that. So we need to put ourselves into that persona. If you're a teacher, you're also a friend, you're a community member, you're always available to help people feel more comfortable and feel more included in the family that you're creating in your school.
Yeah. This is all, I think, a reminder when I think about this guide for those who want to teach beginners, who are teaching beginners. Something that we learned is that we don't need to teach everything in terms of movements, and just having the curriculum focus on that entirely.
Yeah.
The curriculum also can incorporate elements of social dance simulations, like you do a little practica during the class, and then inviting people to dance and how we change partners and all of these things. Talking about these things, sparing some time to talk about these things. I remember our curriculum for beginners, and I've seen several other curriculums for beginners, in which each week is a new movement. Each week is a new pattern. Man.
Terrible old days.
Terrible old days. Each week, the days in which you had Soutinho to teach on week 4, it's like, oh my God, you guys, what were we thinking?
No.
So the way that I think teaching someone who never danced before, because that's mostly what we get in our reality here, people that never danced before, training their body to move to that song and to perceive its own motions, and then training the interpersonal relationships that happen in the social. So there are all these things, and the patterns are in there, but they're not the only thing that we need to work on. In our Basics 1 course this week, now we are using props. I surrendered to the props. They are so useful. So we got sticks, we got rubber bands, and for example, this last week, we used pens. So we're holding the stick with a pen between your legs, walking, holding the pen, holding the stick, and differentiating between moving the stick like this and moving the stick with your whole spine in torsions. And it was amazing. Guys, I would just put pens in between people's legs to walk with the legs closed. When I took the pen out and I did the basic was different already. But again, this is week 7. Yeah, we have been working on these things for some time. using the warm-up. People, the warm-up. Use this magical, powerful tool intentionally so you can work on the thing you're going to teach later very early on, but without a partner. And sometimes, depending on the cohesion of your curriculum, something that you're going to teach 3 courses from now, you start there and you just keep going. So the warm-up is an incredibly powerful tool for you to work on these proprioception aspects: arm, torso, feet, legs coordination, timing, body movements, the dances, footwork patterns that we know. All these things you can work on the warm-up. Yeah.
And I'm just going to say this. If your class is 60 minutes, your warm-up should be at least 10. At least 10. It could even go to 15 minutes, because when we're talking about warm-up, we're not talking about stretch your shoulders, stretch your arms and your hips and your toes for 15 minutes. We're talking about a couple of minutes of, stretch, and then body movement, and then weight transfers, and then some torsions, and then some actual basic footworks, and then the footwork of the class, and then mixing it all up, 10 minutes. It's kind of like, for me, it's the practice that the students didn't do since last class. They may have done, but if they haven't, they are getting 10 minutes of practice before we start dancing together. For me, it's painful.
The transformation.
Oh, absolutely. For me, it's painful when I see teachers who are doing a 3 minutes warm-up and there's nothing about what they're going to teach. Even in festivals. Yeah, especially in festivals, to be honest. Because I feel like in festivals, when you go from one class to the other, to the other, to the other, I want that 10 minutes to reset the mind, the body, the energy, and everything. So the students are in my class now and they feel that and they're ready for that. But then the teachers just go basic, lateral, simple turn, sahada, ta, 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 ta. And then the class is about something completely unrelated. Instead of spending that 3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, okay, we're going to be doing spins. Okay, great. We're going to be doing S's. We're going to be doing like calf raises. We're going to be doing like core engagement. We're going to be doing shoulder engagement. That's the warm-up. Because you can use those 5 minutes, every minute in a class is so valuable. Please invest more in your warm-ups. And back to you, Guy.
This thing that you were mentioning, the short warm-up, it was for a long time part of a format of teaching. You had a 1-song warm-up, and then the students dance the song, and then you teach the pattern. You know, that still is a very classic way to format a class. For your regular classes, for your beginner courses, intention on each section of your class is very powerful, and the warm-up is like the thing for you to really get people dancing on their own, because it might be the only time they do it. And I think we talked about this so many times already, but we are talking about, don't mind repeating things, so you don't mind repeating things. The warm-up is the only time your students is dancing on their own. Sometimes, most times. Yeah. And you select, like we said in the very beginning, the essentials. You don't need to teach everything in terms of patterns and movements. You really don't. You leave some stuff for them to learn in the wild. So what are the things that you can teach that when they go in the wild, they are better prepared, they're better equipped for the jungle? And that's the exercise that we try. We try like, what are the things that can make someone survive in the jungle? What is enough for them to know having 8 weeks of class? And we need to like prioritize something. For us here, priority, timing. Second priority, basic structures. Basic structures is positioning and basic footwork. Everything else is add-on, is extra. And we basically reduce the content in terms of how many patterns we teach, and stretch the time, how much time we have to teach those patterns.
To be honest, the only person who feels like the class is too slow is the teacher. Remember that the only person who thinks that the students need more is the teacher. Because normally I could dare to say 100% of the times, but I'm not going to. But I'm going to believe it is 100% of the times. If you ask the students, like, are you okay? Can we just practice and I'll go around and give you guys some feedback and give you some notes and give you something else to practice, something else to focus? The students are going to be like, yeah. And that's like by 40 minutes into the class. So you can spend the next 15 minutes just practice feedback and maybe a little pause and go like, hey, everybody, we're doing good in time. We're doing good in days. Now let's just focus on our feet. Okay. Next song, let's just focus on our feet. Forget about the rest. Everything is going to work out. And give different information instead of different move.
Yes. The integration process is really important. It's something that we often overlook. The students need to integrate, especially in the beginning. So we do move to our eyes, but to me, it's not that. But we do move slower at first in the sense of how much movement are we teaching? How much patterns are we teaching? Much slower. As the timing is down, as the positioning is getting better, then we move up. Yeah. And we also introduced partner warm-up. So we're doing partner warm-up, which everybody in front of the mirror with a partner, and I call the transitions. Fascinating process. Learning a lot by it is super cool because it teaches people transitions on the fly, on the go. You know, they have to look and do. It works on a very interesting part of the brain, and you see them struggling, and then boom, it clicks and they go. And that's magical. And I was going to say something about the warm-up, a recommendation. Guys, lunge footwork in the warm-up. Just try there and see people falling apart by just doing lunge footwork on the...
I've done this so many times in professional development. Advanced challenge workshops. Lateral, 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 lunge, simple turn. Now the lateral is facing to the back of the room. People cannot continue. People just cannot continue. And then with the lateral facing the back of the room, not facing the mirror, lateral, lunge, simple turn again. Bro, it's like lost cockroaches just going everywhere around the room.
And if you loop, lunge, simple turn, lunge, simple turn, lunge, simple turn, man. So guys, one thing here. We're getting excited. One thing here.
We're a little mean sometimes.
A little mean. No, the thing that I realized, we also have dancers that come from salsa and bachata and ballroom and all of these things, as everybody.
Yeah.
We have our muggles and we have our dancers of other dances. The awareness of how much impulse they give themselves to do a turn, to do like a pivot, is off. They give themselves a lot of impulse to turn 90 degrees. And then when you do stuff in a loop, that's when you see falling apart. So it's a moment that you give to them to struggle a little bit in that process of like, man, I cannot finish this turn and go forward again to the other lunge. And then it keeps happening. It keeps happening. It keeps happening. They start to realize they need less impulse and less impulse and less impulse. And then this week, it was the first time, guys, this is week 7. It was the first time that I looked in the mirror and everybody was looping the lunge simple turn, you know, cohesively. There is always one or two who are still having a hard time, but most people were doing it. Week 7. And we have been doing this every single week, you know, and we explain, we break down in front of the mirror. Let's go again without music. Bah. Next week, guys, in the warm-up, we're doing this to music. And struggle. So looping, using the power of loops. We used to do loops back in the day to practice flow, which is basically like letting your body and the impulses you use to create a movement self-regulate based on the repetition. And we are doing this with the students. And it's really, really good. Really good. In the partner warm-up, we are doing the traveling team. And then you see people like Alisson said, like lost cockroaches, trying to find the line in themselves, but then eventually they do. And then it's really cool when they do. So for a beginner course, coming back to the beginners, you can do some sort of looping of some of the essential movements. Yeah, like you can loop a transition. You can loop like basic viradinha, basic viradinha. And you do like 5 times in a row. You know, again, the thing of repetition, just to get in the body. I think the biggest realization is we don't need to cover all ground. We find what is this essential ground we need to cover. And it's subjective what is essential. We selected some stuff, and that's what we are sharing with you guys here. But we would love to hear your experience if you found another thing that has been helping beginners.
That's right. And for example, when we're talking about the beginners level and let's say the next level, so if we think about beginners, we don't actually call beginners. We stopped doing that for a long time because there is an issue with the word beginners in a lot of people's perception, right?
Especially here in the US.
Yes, especially there. So we thought, okay, what do the people that are coming, trying to skip the beginner levels, are missing the most? The basics. So then we thought, well, why don't we call them the basics? So at District Zouk, for example, we have basics 1, 2, and 3. And then what comes after the basics? The fundamentals. So then we go to fundamentals 1, 2, 3, or 2A, 2B, 1A, 1B. We keep moving like that. And then the next levels. But going back to the basics level, you can even have a little bit of a theme about how to teach or how to learn that dance. When we're teaching the first level, the main idea is movements that we're facing each other or very close to each other with minimum travel, just in a little box. Okay, so we're not doing yo-yo, we're not doing bonus, we're not doing traveling soltinho, none of that. We're just doing little things that we can do in a little box. And then in the next one, you think, okay, maybe now we're going to do some more open movements. Maybe our first traveling movement. And try to categorize movements in such a way instead of looking at this Brazilian Zouk menu of movements and then just following it religiously just because somebody wrote it. Somebody wrote this move after this move, after this move, after this move, and you think, no, that's the sequence that I have to teach. I disagree because I think that you need to teach how your students want to learn. And yes, we're talking about, in this case, a crowd that is mostly made of non-dancers. But we also understand that this is not the reality for a lot of Brazilian Zouk scenes that are having people migrating from bachata or from salsa or from other styles. So yes, you can definitely change these things without losing the essence of we're still working with timing, the feeling of the motion and the body awareness and how the movements in the body affect the other partner in Brazilian Zouk versus the other styles. So there's so much information that sometimes the students who's been dancing Zouk for like a year and they came from salsa, and I tell them, oh, by the way, have you learned that, in Brazilian Zouk, we use the hips to do this? And they're like, no, I've never heard that, like, I'm supposed to do things with my lower body. Because I come from this style or that style, I'm very used to just doing things with my upper body, so I never tried. But we just think, oh, they come from another style. We don't need to teach them those things. Maybe you don't need to go deep, step by step, small little bites. But the information needs to be there. The information needs to be felt in the body to then feel like you're dancing that new dance. There's a certain way that we move our body. But at the same time, for me, the priority is they're dancing, they're happy, and they're connecting with each other. How perfect the basic is, I don't care. I'm not going to spend a whole class on explaining the basic step. In one class, I want them to do body movement, I want them to travel, I want them to do rock step, I want them to do basic step, I want them to, like play, connect, feel the back. So many things instead of spending 20 minutes explaining the weight transfer on the basic step. I think that's another way that people go and affects the learning experience or the reason why so many people leave Zouk in the first month. Teachers are too nerdy, and we are one of them. But we've learned through these mistakes, so we're here to share and hopefully help you to not go too deep, to expect perfection from your beginners or from your basics levels. Expect happy people that can do the essentials and that will come back next week. If you get that, we are happy.
And that comes down to, I think, maybe a point that we didn't discuss here in this episode, but we talked about in different episodes. This is a people's job. Now you are peopling the whole time. So you are dealing with people, you are interacting with them. In the beginning, it's still a fragile relationship. This person doesn't have the confidence to go out and dance, and feel satisfied. This person, in most cases, the confidence is still being developed. So encouraging them constantly through positive feedback, like, wow, such an improvement that you guys have been having since the beginning. When you're dancing with them, saying something that has improved, that is getting better, has such a powerful impact. And especially in the beginning, depending on how much of a hands-on instructor you are, if you are the instructor who watches more, if you are the instructor who dances more, depends, like in both cases, coming to the person and saying, oh my God, so much better. It's improving so much better. You give something that they can work on and you give something that they are doing better already. Incredibly powerful tool. Our basics course here has a practica right after. Our basics one has a practica right after. And there is always the student that stands in the corner and almost hiding. And that's the interesting thing. He could have gone home. He could have left, but he's still here, but he's still hiding. So there's a part of him that is saying, I want to try. And there's another part that is saying, but I'm too shy, And then if you are a hands-on person who have space for it, go and invite that person to dance. One song, 2 songs. Oh my gosh, can make such a difference. We have this guy. I don't normally invite people to dance as a follow. I rarely do. I only do that these days to my beginner students, to my beginner leaders. I invite them to dance as a follow. And then after the dance, I make sure to like, man, super nice. I'm happy you're here. I'm happy you stayed. And then you see them that they stay the next week. So encouragement is also a powerful tool. And remember, we are dealing with people who are insecure, who are developing their trust in themselves to safely and confidently guide someone else on the floor or be guided by someone else on the floor. And your presence and your words can have a big impact.
That's very, very important. And before I give you my last notes for this episode, I just want to ask you to please help us and support us by following and sharing our content on YouTube, or Instagram, or TikTok, or any of the platforms that you prefer, so we can continue doing this and sharing our views here with you and with the community. And the last thing that I want to talk about is a tip for you for the next time you go to a weekender or somebody's class or a festival, or maybe even if there's no other class where you are, just go to a salsa class, to a tango class. Just take one class for me, okay? Just take one class and take a notepad. And every time, a notepad or a phone, sorry, I just went into notepad, and write down all of the questions that the students ask during that class or that you have during that class. And make sure that those questions are answered in the next class that you teach. Maybe not all of them, but at least some of them. Take notes of the things that people are asking or the things that in the movement, in the class or in the warm-up, you ask yourself, oh, what am I supposed to do here? Simple example. A lot of the times when I join a weekender, a workshop, anything like that, I often struggle to keep watching the teacher in the warm-up because they don't change lines. Very often, the teachers forget to change lines. So we're there, we're excited, we're like in the vibe, and we're going and we're enjoying ourselves, and we forget that these people are all there in the back and they cannot see you. So then I always keep that reminder, change lines. 30 seconds, change lines. A minute, change lines. Maybe you only have a few students in class and everybody can see you. Change lines. I think that proximity helps. But not just that, I think it also helps the brain and the way you learn. Because a lot of the students have their favorite spot. And I love to mess with that. I love to mess with that. Because the students already go and they drop their things and they're there. And then this time I go, change leaders. Leaders move around. Leaders move around. And then the leaders are like, oh my God, I never move. What's happening? I don't know how to dance in this side of the room. Same thing with the followers. Then the next time I change the followers and the followers are like, no, every time I do a simple turn, I face that way. You cannot do that to me. So it also helps the students to learn in a different way. But back to what I was saying, do this exercise, go to a workshop, go to a class, and take note of the things that you wanted to ask or the questions that you had in your head about that class or about the teacher, things that they did that you thought was so helpful, write them down, or things that you thought should be helpful, but it didn't really help the students for some reason. Think about that. So every time you go to a class, don't just be there. Be there to learn. But not just the dance. Learn from somebody else's experience, the student's experience, and also the teacher experience in that class. To me, every time I'm in a class, that's what I'm doing. I'm just like a sponge. I'm absorbing everything and I'm paying attention to everything. If you ever see me in a class, in a workshop or anything like that, I may have a resting bitch face or may look very upset and angry, but I'm not. I'm just paying attention and taking note of everything. Not because I'm judging, simply because I'm learning. I'm observing and I'm learning. And if somebody does something different from me, I'm going to absorb it 100% and just feel that in my body. Because maybe I think it's not good. And then when I experience, I go like, you know what? I should be doing this. I was judging before and I thought this wasn't good. But now that I've experienced it, I think the students will enjoy this. And now I see why other teachers do. Sometimes we just have this judgment because we haven't done the real thing for real, like with open mind and open body. So try to do that, whether you're a dancer, learning this dance, or a teacher already teaching this dance. I think this is going to be very, very helpful.
Agreed. Yeah. And I think we gave it all, guys. We gave it all. It's all there. You just need to now go and apply these things, or you can come to one of our Q&As and ask us in person, talk to us in person about these things, what you tried or you didn't try. I would love to hear you and hear the results or hear suggestions, more questions. Anyway, I think we gave it all.
Yes. And we want to thank you once again for being here with us. And we hope to see you in our next episode. Thank you for being here once again with us at ZoukNerds. Beijos, abraços, and ciao.
Bye, people. Ciao, ciao.